welcome to another episode of A Minute to Midnight with your host Chris.
And Tony.
Hi Tony, how's it going?
Good there, Chris. And yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. There's a lot been happening in the last week and a bit once again.
Yep, September's ended. We're now into October. And what has been going on?
Well, that's it. September's gone. And it was all meant to be doom and gloom. Was it?
Yeah, well, it hasn't worked out how I think many people expected. But still, a lot did happen in September. A surprising amount, actually. No great economic collapse occurred, but certainly many things were set in motion and a way being paved, I believe, for the introduction of the New World Order via Pope Francis's visit and the UN General Assembly that's going on right now.
In the US.
Yes.
Yes, we go back to September and we think, was there anything worthy of note? And there was a lot that was worthy of note. You're just saying that there wasn't an economic collapse, but there's been a collapse in the share market. I was reading an article today, and in the last 3 months, there's been 10 trillion, that's trillion with a T, trillion dollars taken off the share markets worldwide in the last 3 months. So we mightn't be told there's an economic collapse, but there's certainly one in the making.
Yeah, well, I mean, and you look at places like Glencore, there's some serious negotiations because of trouble in their share prices. They've dropped, I think, 75%. Though I think they may have rallied somewhat today, but all in all, this year they've dropped a heck of a long way, and that's one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, and it's a mining company.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mine various metals, across the board, copper, silver, gold. They do tin, alloys. They do the whole lot. And, their share price got whacked considerably a few days back. And there was concern that they wouldn't recover, but they had a meeting, as you said, yesterday, and they've come out and the share price has gone up, 12% or something?
I think something like that, yeah.
But that is a warning, because what's caused the crash in that particular stock?
Well, the commodities are going down, aren't they?
That's right.
And this is how a depression begins.
Yes, and it can be a house of cards. All you need is something like that to set it off. The domino effect.
It's a deflationary spiral, really, isn't it, at the moment? So, and a currency war going on as well. And what did you think of Janet Yellen and the Federal Reserve not raising the interest rate?
Well, the Janet Yellen speech is something that I probably would more allude to than her putting interest rates up. Did you see that speech that she had, the last speech?
It was pretty bizarre, wasn't it?
It was very bizarre. If you haven't seen it yet, just type into your search engine on Janet Yellen speech, and you'll see the latest speech she's had, and have a look at it on YouTube. It's quite fascinating.
Yeah, it sure is. Something certainly wasn't right. Something was bizarre is the only word I can use there.
Very bizarre. We'll let you come to your own conclusions on that one. So, lots happening again. I mean, China's had another explosion in the last 24 hours. Series
of them, yeah.
And people are dead.
Yep.
People are missing. 50 injured or something.
Yeah.
6 dead, I think they mentioned.
Yeah, they're parcel bombs, I think.
Right. So what's going on there?
Well, there was an announcement of 100,000 jobs, I think, in the coal mining industry being lost, and perhaps it's some sort of unrest as a result of that.
There you go. It's the commodity prices once again.
Yeah,
this is a real house of cards, Tony. As I said before, now you've got that Glencore you're talking about. That's the mining industry. I think one industry we need to be really wary of to watch, and that's the oil industry. There's another article I read in the last few days, and it said I think $50 is the minimum price that these companies have set to make money. The price of oil, I think, is around about the $45 mark at the moment, so they're all in negative territory, and all it takes is one or two of those to fold, and then once again you've got contagion, you've got all these indebted companies especially the smaller companies that are involved in the oil sector. There's exploration companies, there's drilling companies, there's the oil companies themselves, and they've all got big assets and big debt associated with those assets.
And derivatives, of course, associated with a lot of this.
Yeah, well, some of them are hedged, which the ones that are hedged are probably sheltered a little bit.
Could you explain that a little bit? What are you meaning there, Chris?
Well, it means that they've been guaranteed a certain amount over and above what they're able to survive on. So say the oil's at $45 a barrel today, right?
Yeah.
But a year ago it was $100 a barrel.
Yeah.
Well, that company might have at that time says, oh, we're going to sort of hedge our bets for the next 3 years, and they've set up a contract with a finance company or a company willing to give them that, guarantee them that $100 regardless of what the price is over the next whatever term.
Right.
So in this situation, they might have done it for 3 years, so they'll be all right for 3 years. $100 are going to, but the company that's given them the $100 ain't going to do so well.
Yeah.
But that's hedging. That's sort of how hedging works.
Sweet. Yep.
And it happens in the mining industry as well. Of late, there's not so many gold and silver companies that did it. They used to do it in the 90s and the 2000s, and then as the price increased from 2003 onwards, there's less and less hedging took place. And those that were hedging, as soon as the hedging expiry date came, they decided to just go along with the spot price.
Right.
But you've got these industries now, and even the precious metals industries with the metals falling as they are, you're going to see a lot of contagion there, I believe, at some stage, and it's already been happening, where you'll see mining companies, they just can't mine the product at the price that it's been set at.
Right. So there is a lot happening. What about, you've got the headline there about the NASDAQ, the Four Horsemen thing. Did you see that?
Yes. Well, there's a sign within the markets. The analysts, the signal, if you like, charts, and the charts are saying that there's a pattern that's occurring. I'll just read out from this news item from that I've got here in front of me. It says it's from CNBC. Actually, it's from their website. And the Nasdaq Composite spooked investors on Monday after forming a death cross, a trading pattern that shows a decline in short-term momentum and is often a precursor to future losses. A death cross occurs when the short-term moving average of a security or an index pierces below the long-term trend. In this case, the 50-day moving average breaking through the 200-day moving average. And so they're calling it the Four Horsemen pattern.
Right, that sounds ominous, doesn't it? Closer to home in New Zealand, I see the Reserve Bank of New Zealand basically sold a net of 554 million New Zealand dollars in the 12 months ending June the 30th, and that was due to them selling currency to try and push it lower. So we're in a currency war.
And they made a profit.
That's the crazy thing. And they made a profit, and yet the Governor, Graham Wheeler, said that the bank faces a tight budgetary framework under its 5-year funding agreement that kicked off from July 1st and had made 15 staff redundant earlier to help prepare for the constraints. And they're saying that on the one hand, and yet their profits were up to 624 million, which is opposed to 56 million the previous year.
It's interesting how they say it's going to the government. I bet you it's going to the City of London.
Yeah, ultimately, yes. I think you probably find a big percentage of it is.
Yes.
So, of course, you've got the UN Security Council meeting at the moment. We've had the Pope's visit, and I'd like to go into a certain amount of that today during this show. I've got a lot of thoughts there. But also, I just like thinking about it, and people should, I was thinking, go and If you haven't already heard it, go back and listen to Steve Quayle's prophetic word from 2014, either by going to YouTube or his site directly, stevequayle.com. And it's a prophetic word that he gave from 2014. It's about a 12 or 13 minute prophecy, and where he says this whole thing's likely to go down on a weekend and that we need to be prepared. And I think if you haven't already heard it, listen to it. It's quite sobering and stir you up. Don't get complacent. So what else have we got there, Chris? I just thought I'd mention that because it's been on my mind a bit, that prophecy lately. So
Right. I think we should probably stick with the September thing. I mean, there's probably a lot of people who are out there who have heard the same things that we have, that, September was the end of Shemitah, and then also there was the blood moons and how this, that, and the other was going to happen.
speaking of that, the last blood moon in Jerusalem, I don't know if you saw any pictures of it, but wow, what an incredible sight it would have been in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
We
I
didn't
did
really
see
get
some
to
of
see that here in New Zealand this time, but
But yeah, I mean, for those listeners out there that are thinking, oh yeah, these people that are saying such stuff, nah, it hasn't happened. Don't be complacent.
no. And I believe September, we actually saw in the last part of September the real beginnings of the New World Order. And that's why Pope Francis was there, and Agenda 2030 has been released, set up for the next 15 years. And to me, it's actually, I don't know why we haven't heard more about it in the mainstream media, because it's going to affect every one of us, this plan. And, it's about, Pope Francis is saying about eliminating poverty in the world and all that kind of stuff, and railing against capitalism. But to me, it's like there's a real big agenda going on here, and they're glossing it up with these nice words, But I came across something in the Seattle Times some time ago, and I'll just read a little bit. According to a draft letter obtained by the Seattle Times, the Mayor, Ed Murray's advisory committee on housing, was drafting a set of rules that will ban single-family zoning in Seattle. Part of the draft reads, "We can still be a city for everyone, but only if we give up our outdated ideal of every family living in their own home on a 5,000 square foot lot." And I think, ultimately, the real agenda behind Agenda 21 is global government and serfdom for the masses, and the abolition of the ownership of private property, except for the rich members of the elite, of course, who control the corporations. They won't give up their rights to ownership. Get people off rural land and turn this land into supposed nature reserves or national parks, and keep the general population off this land. The elitists, however, will continue to have access to this land, but herd the people into cities where they can't own their own properties. So, of course, when a global collapse occurs and people can't pay their mortgages and are bankrupted, who's going to get their homes?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. We go back to what the Pope said, what you said about the Pope with the capitalism. I mean, if you haven't got capitalism, what do you got?
Well, that's it. What's the alternative? It's communism, isn't it?
Exactly. So we've got a
Marxism.
socialist religious entity
Yes, that's exactly my point.
pushing a political view,
Yep.
and then we've got
Well, I mean, you look back in 1776, and I've mentioned this in one previous show. Adam Weishaupt wrote the Illuminati 7-part plan for creating a new world order. Okay, and what were the 7 parts? 1, the abolition of all orders of government. 2, the abolition of private property. 3, abolition of inheritance. 4, abolition of patriotism. 5, abolition of the family. 6, abolition of religion. 7, creation of a new world order. Okay, so there'll be no middle class. The goal here is to have a small elite class and the rest of the population to serve that elite. Not everyone who's currently rich, by the way, belongs to that elite class. Most don't. And so they'll lose it all in the collapse as well and wind up in the poor class. So Pope Francis railed against the evils of capitalism and called for a fairer distribution of wealth. So how does he plan to achieve that? Through communism? Through a world regulating body, which he's mentioned, hasn't he? He's mentioned a world body, a governing body for on the economy and on the climate and things. Okay, doesn't that sound a lot like Stalin or Lenin?
Marxism.
Exactly. See, and what did both Lenin and Stalin do? Okay, they abolished private property. This is under communism. They abolished the rights of inheritance. They sought to abolish religion. I mean, the amount of people that were Christians that were tortured, etc., in the old Soviet bloc for not renouncing their faith. The abolition of the family as a basic social unit, because the communists as a state took over the role, didn't they? So what is Pope Francis wanting here?
He's wanting to set up a new world order, along with others.
Exactly. That's why his visit to the UN is so crucial. And the crowd that says nothing happened in September, I actually think that was huge.
Exactly. I was just going to allude to that, in that, yes, things have been happening, but we've been looking in the wrong areas.
Yes.
The Word of God says that an adulterous generation look for a sign. Yeah. Well, I think we've been looking for signs
in the wrong places.
And it's really screaming out to us, and we're not actually being alert. And it's been presented in a way which looks nice.
Yeah.
They're using environmental issues,
yes,
all-encompassing
religious faith.
Yeah, and poverty. Let's get rid of poverty.
Yeah.
You know,
which sound like great goals, don't they?
Yeah.
But how are they going to achieve them?
And then they're talking about the refugee crisis, yet the Vatican's all... I saw a picture of that the other day.
Yeah, well,
and it's a walled city where no one can get in.
No, and they're also the richest corporation in the world, and yet Pope Francis is railing against capitalism and telling everyone that we need to abolish poverty and spread around. Well, what's the Vatican doing? I mean, they're the richest corporation in the world.
Yeah, I think they're the biggest landowner, aren't they?
I would think you're probably right. Yeah. And, sorry.
The other thing I think that they're looking at too is overpopulation. They think we're overpopulated.
Yeah, I mean, here in New Zealand, just how much spare land is there? I mean,
well, I was listening to something this week, and this guy, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on the figures, but every person that's in the world today, if you put them on a continent like Australia, you'd have an acre each. Is that overpopulation?
Yeah, yes, hugely. Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're being told a lie, eh? Once again.
Yeah.
And as Hitler said, or one of his cohorts, if you tell the people a lie long enough, they will believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we're being lied to left, right and centre in all areas.
Yeah, and, going back to the Pope and who he is, they call him the Vicar of Christ or the Holy Father, supposedly the successor of the Apostle Peter, the Catholics say anyway, Well, this Pope places his hands on people, including sick people, and gets people to kiss his ring, and that's the ring on his hand, and receives adulation.
Tony.
Adulation from the people. But is that what Jesus did? Or is that what the Apostle Peter did? No, they had power to heal the sick. And that's what they did. And they preached the need to repent. Okay, I mean here from Acts 4:12. Then Peter, filled with the Holy Spirit, said to them, Rulers of the people and elders of Israel, if this day we are judged for a good deed done to a helpless man, by what means he has been made well, let it be known to you all and to all the people of Israel that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified, whom God raised from the dead, by him this man stands here before you whole. This is the stone which was rejected by you builders and has become the chief cornerstone. Now listen to this, verse 12. Nor is there salvation in any other, for there is no other name under heaven given among men by which we must be saved. Now contrast that with Pope Francis. In that passage, the Apostle Peter stressed that there is salvation in no other name but Jesus. Yet Pope Francis, on the other hand, led an interfaith prayer meeting on the Ground Zero with representatives of the Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim and other faiths. What do you think, Chris? Would the Apostle Peter have done that? Would Jesus have condoned that?
Don't think so.
No. So here's the Vicar of Christ, the Holy Father, the supposed successor of Peter. I mean, to me, nah. They're so totally the opposite. Complete opposites.
What comes to mind straight away is what they want to hear. You know, their itching ears will want to hear. And it's those people that grab onto this stuff, you know. It's an all-encompassing faith.
Well, that's right. That's what we're getting, an all one world religion along with a one world government, and then eventually, of course, a one world currency. You know, I mean, I was raised a Catholic, okay, and as a child, we were indoctrinated with the belief that the Pope was infallible, that he was God's representative on earth, and that the Catholic Church was the only true church, we were told, and all other beliefs were in error. Of course, nothing can be further from the truth, but Pope Francis is certainly not infallible, but he's not even preaching a gospel that says the Catholic Church is the only church, isn't it? He's embracing Islam and having them praying in the Vatican and all these other faiths. So what we're seeing here is the seeds of a one-world religion. Wouldn't you agree there, Chris? Or what do you think?
Most definitely. And that's how they want us to roll in these end times. They want us to take hold of an all-encompassing faith.
Yeah.
That we're all in this
and
together.
And the Pope didn't mention Jesus Christ either, did he, in his whole speech?
No.
So it's not an all-encompassing religion of Jesus Christ. It's just an all-encompassing religion.
That's
isn't
right.
It?
And that's what the one world religion, New World Order Church wants to put in place.
Could you imagine
in these last days?
The Apostle Peter or Paul or Jesus Christ getting up and saying this? This is what Pope Francis said at the White House. Climate change is a problem which can no longer be left to a future generation. And also in the speech he said, Mr. President, I find it encouraging that you are proposing an initiative for reducing air pollution. Or more of the Pope's words here. We still have time to make the change needed to bring about a sustainable and integral development. Well, doesn't that just sound like the Pope's stamp of approval for a world government?
Yeah, nothing about personal change.
Nothing about salvation or the need for Jesus Christ, does it? And
no.
I mean, isn't he supposed to be the representative of Christ? Well, there's nothing in there about Christ, is there?
No, there's nothing.
I would like all men and women of goodwill in this great nation to support the efforts of the international community to protect the vulnerable in the world and to stimulate integral and inclusive models of developments, said the Pope. And what did Obama have to say? And Holy Father, you remind us that we have a sacred obligation to protect our planet, God's magnificent gift to us. We support your call to all world leaders to support the communities most vulnerable to changing climate and to come together to preserve our precious world for future generations.
So it's about worshipping the created and not the creator.
Exactly. And do you know what? You've just brought me to the next bit. Do you know who the Pope's scientific advisor was on this climate change thing?
David Attenborough.
No.
Oh.
Buzzer. Okay, it was a guy named Hans Schellenhuber who believes the Earth is a living being. He worships Mother Earth. He's an atheist, worships Mother Earth or Gaia worship. He's not even a Catholic. And that was one of the Pope's main advisors, worshipping a Gaia worshipper. Okay, so... another thing about Pope Francis that someone has picked up on, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm the first one here. I first found a guy called Jeffrey Grider of Now the End Begins came up with this one. The scripture in John 5:43 says, I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him ye will receive. Now, listen to what the Pope said at the beginning of his speech to the UN Security Council. Thank you for your kind words. Once again, following a tradition by which I feel honoured, the Secretary-General of the United Nations has invited the Pope to address this distinguished assembly of nations. Now, here's the bit. In my own name, and that of the entire Catholic community, I wish to express to you, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, my heartfelt gratitude.
Wow.
That's pretty major, don't you reckon?
Is that false prophet stuff?
It is. Yeah.
So September's been significant.
Absolutely. For the people that say September wasn't significant, I think it was absolutely one of the most significant months we've had, in a very long time. A big thing that's happened in the last couple of days is like a sparring war almost at the UN between Vladimir Putin and President Obama when it comes to the Arab Spring and specifically Syria at the moment. Quite contrasting points of view as to what's going on there. And I think Putin actually upstaged Obama and told the truth, got through the garbage that the West is peddling.
Putin had to say this. He admonished those who supported democratic revolutions in the Middle East, telling the United Nations they led to the rise of a globally ambitious Islamic State. Instead of the triumph of democracy and progress, we got violence, poverty, and social disaster. Isn't that what the Pope and President Obama has been rallying against?
Yeah, and yet it's...
And here we've got President Putin saying this is exactly what they have established, or Obama or the Western nations have established.
That's dead right, because...
And then he goes on to say nobody cares a bit about human rights.
Yeah.
So, he's onto something, all right, including the right to life. How many abortions are there in America? Should we go there? No.
Let's
He's onto it. He's got a point,
exactly.
and we're being, as you say, it's the propaganda.
Yeah.
That's putting the cloak over our eyes.
Yeah.
Wake up, people. Putin said through a translator, I cannot help asking those who have forced that situation, do you realise what you have done? He has challenged the Western world.
He has, and that's huge.
The Russian president added that the power vacuum following these revolutions, interesting he calls them revolutions,
Yeah.
led to the rise of terrorist groups in the region, including the Islamic State group, ISIS, or as Mr. Obama would say, ISIL. And he told the General Assembly it would be an enormous mistake not to cooperate with the Syrian government to combat the extremist group. No one but President Bashar Assad's armed forces and Kurdish militia are truly fighting the Islamic State and other terrorist organisations in Syria, he said.
Yeah, and you contrast that, what did Obama say in his speech? He said, let's remember how this started. Assad reacted to peaceful protests by escalating repression and killing that in turn created the environment for the current strife. And so Assad and his allies can't simply pacify the broad majority of the population while being brutalised with chemical weapons, etc., etc. Okay, then he says, we know that ISIL, which emerged out of the chaos of Iraq and Syria, depends on perpetual war to survive. So my questions are then, Mr. President, where did ISIS get all their weapons from? Where did they get the brand new vehicles that they paraded themselves around from? Okay? They came from American money, from America arming the so-called moderate rebels that turned out to be ISIS and Al-Qaeda. What did Syria look like before the Americans went in there, and the West, not just America, went in there and armed these people and tried to overthrow Assad? Were the cities bombed to smithereens before the US intervened? Did you have millions dead and fleeing as refugees under Assad? No. this has all happened since America and the West intervened and went in there, and the chaos has erupted. Yeah, I mean, Assad is no saint, okay? But there weren't 12 million fleeing refugees and 250,000 plus dead people under Assad's reign. And you contrast also, look at countries like Libya under Gaddafi.
And Egypt.
Yeah, and what else? Also
Afghanistan.
And Iraq.
It goes on.
It does.
And because they've got some opposition with Assad, and yeah, he supposedly has done some atrocities, but the West has got some atrocities under there.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, how much worse? Under the supposed Arab Spring that America and Western money is fermented, how many more dead and how much war and how much destruction? You contrast pictures of a lot of those cities like Damascus and numerous other cities to what they were before the West and Obama's regime supposedly intervened to make this a better place and bring in democracy. You tell me what Arab country in the world has ever wanted democracy?
And then you've got the Christian slaughter.
Yes, yeah, that's dead right.
In all of these countries.
And what are they doing about that?
Nothing.
No.
They're arming the enemy.
Yeah. I mean, the Middle East is a mess. And potentially we could see fulfillment of Bible prophecy like the Psalm 83 war and Ezekiel, the wars in Ezekiel, I think it's 38 and 39, happening very soon. So
the one that I've sort of, that really, that will really shine the light on prophecy being fulfilled, I believe, is when Damascus is taken out.
Yeah.
There's more talk on the likes of the TPPA taking place. That's Trans-Pacific Partnership Alliance. We don't want it here in our country, but we've got a representative going to, I think, to the States this week. They're going to try and close that deal off. And once they do that, trade is going to be totally different worldwide. There's a lot of things happening, a lot going on. The markets are very volatile at the moment. The 10 top share markets have, as I said earlier, have lost, I think, $10 trillion in the last 3 months, and that's a significant amount of money wiped out of the whole economic system throughout the world globally. So that's going to come home to roost shortly. We are in a I believe in a bear market when it comes to stocks and shares. So it's probably going to be in one of those markets or the derivatives market where a crash is going to start. And as I said earlier, please don't be complacent. We need to be ready and prepared, and be prepared for anything. It may go up again, but don't get disillusioned as to things not happening the way you might think they're going to happen, or in the time frame that you think they're going to happen. Be patient, be diligent. Once again, I just want to reiterate, as we do in every show, that we need to have our spiritual lives in order. With our lives need to be set apart, and we need to have that relationship with our God through His Son Jesus. We need to be ready as you would for an imminent disaster. These things are like birth pains. You know the time is near. The birthing's about to take place. Don't be complacent. Know your redemption draws near when these things are happening. Thanks again for listening. So it's goodbye from me, Chris.
And from Tony, and hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll be back with you hopefully again very shortly.